Hello and welcome to the EML F1 Season 8 Championship. Today you join us for round 2 here in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. This track is well known to be one of the faster circuits on the calendar, however it is more challenging to overtake despite the 3 DRS zones for correction. It has a lovely 14 combination corners, however it does not allow for much overtaking except into, of course, turn 1, potentially turn 11, and depending on how gutsy you are, turn 9. Last week we had an incredible qualifying performance from the Evolution Racing team and PEC. PEC coming at P4 and P5 with EVR locking out the front row of the grid. However, during the race, huge battles between them and the F1 Academy France allowed AMS to sneak into the victory after some post-race penalties being cleaned up. This also allowed XPG, the Xbox Pro Gamers, up into the final podium position. Here then are the team standings heading into the second round of the championship. Alien Motorsport with 28 points, and then a tie between Xbox Pro Gamers and Evolution Racing. Again, good haul of points from Xbox working in the background, and unfortunately Kevin's for the EVR team did not manage to get a good run or manage to get his shot at a podium after spinning out halfway through the race. Further down the grid, of course, we have Esports PEC with Red Flame Joe coming in P2, giving them the 18 points. With QSL Esports coming close behind after Gabza had an incredible race, coming all the way from P11 up to P4. Then we have F1 AF, which is F1 Academy France, followed by Deluxe Esports, FRC Esport, and then ERS Esport and XR8 Esports. Our lineup for tonight: Deluxe Motorsport having Antonio Jesus and Kalu Blue representing them. Kalu Blue, of course, a driver from last week. And for FRC we have Enzo and Tom. Tom again, also from last week. Then over in ERS Racing League we have Silva and Pei. Of course we just skipped EVR, who have Ollie and Kevin's once more. Pei, of course, last week was also there to step in. Over in the Xbox Pro Gamers team, we have Power Team and James. James, after a good podium afterwards, ready to take another one this week. However, it was Alien Motorsports who opted for a completely new lineup. And yeah, it's interesting to see this strategy come alive today. F1 Academy France going for completely the opposite strategy, going for both Jerem and Grandada from last week as well. Similar, well, exactly the same lineup, so it'll be interesting to see how those two strategies play out. XR8 having Kieran again from last week, and Nocta. Hopefully they can get both drivers on the grid this time. They only had one driver join last week, and even he missed qualifying, so that was a bit interesting to watch. Over on PEC's side we have Red Flame Joe once again joining, and then Alex Linares for the second driver. Over in QSL, the final team on the grid, but by no means last, you have Gabza once more out on the grid with Kart joining him alongside. Now a quick little reminder of our calendar: we have 12 rounds, 10 rounds to go after today, each week at 7 PM GMT for those who only join us for now. So join us for next week as well over in China, and the week after that for the British GP over at Silverstone. Join us for the whole season if you can. It'll be a absolutely awesome time, especially considering our season opener last week over in Bahrain. Also a quick look at how the point system works. It's 22 points for the race winner rather than 25, followed by 18 points for P2 and 15 points for the final podium position. P4 receives 12 points, and from then on, as you can see, it just decreases by 1 point per position, which means that eventually P16 is the position that scores no points, and P16 downwards the same. So your top 15 score rather than just your top 10 if it were regular Formula 1. You can also pick up an extra point for obtaining the pole position as well as the fastest lap. Pole position is, of course, the only time the only time that you can get pole position is during qualifying, and the fastest lap is during the actual race. And especially considering that there are 15 point scoring positions, you're going to want to maximize each and every point that you can get. Now, let's get this thing underway. So we follow Red Flame Joe, last week's really quick driver and who challenged for the race lead more times than we could count. And he's back yet again to see if he can make that race win from a dream into a reality. And I do apologise if that sounded really weird. My brain's all over the place. It was really last minute. My bus was late tonight. But hey ho, we're here to watch some racing. Zoli with a good quali lap, 3/10 ahead of Gabza, who last week had the fastest lap and was incredibly quick over the course of the race. He's not too far ahead of QSL Kart, his teammate, who's 4/10 behind. But of course, this is only the first attempt at lap times for these drivers. They will still have many more laps to go. There are usually about 17 to 18 laps. Minutes in qualifying. It is a short qualifying session, and we then go to 29 laps of racing afterwards, 50% race length. And if you want to know how long that is, or how far these cars will be travelling over the course of the race, it is going to be 153.062 kilometres and 95.149 miles. Now, I do have a suspicion as to why everyone seems to be coming into the pit lane. Let me confirm. Yes, it is a server restart, so if you give us just a second, we'll get everything back up underway. there we go. Apologies for the delays. It was issues with the lobbies, etc., all that good stuff. But we're all back now. We're all ready to start qualifying now, all 17 drivers. So hopefully nothing like that will happen. I mean, my introduction was horrible. So I mean, you know, it's 50-50. You know, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Anyways, let's leave that behind and move forward. Let's have us a great qualifying session, a great round 2 here in Australia, and it is looking like some very lovely weather. Not too hot, not too cold, not too rainy. Just the other day when I loaded in for a session on track here, I just wanted to get a quick feel for what the drivers would be feeling out on track, but it was raining. So ended up having a lovely drift session round here, which isn't too bad. But you know, it's not the same thing. These guys are running it completely dry, super softs, ready to hit those lap times into oblivion. One of the first drivers who we'll be keeping an eye on is Red Flame Joe, Kevin Zoonberg, coming across the line with a 1:15.6, taking provisional pole, but that is of course because he's the first one across the line. And here come the other lap times. DLX, then we have FRC, PEC come across the line as well. There's the F1AF, Red Flame Joe, coming across to let drivers through. Kevin Zoonberg's across. Here's the XR8, both XR8 drivers out here tonight. Finally, yeah, even though it is only the second race of the season, you know, it's always such a loss when you lose drivers and drivers who can't attend. And I think one of the other drivers who can't attend tonight is one of the Xbox Pro Gamer guys, XPG James being the only representative tonight for the time being. But of course, we'll see how that goes. We might have some late joiners, just like the guys for the XR8 team. I think it was Kieran who joined last week. I can't remember. Just let me know whether I'm right or wrong on this. But Nocta, I think, is a new driver to the list that have competed this season. But yes, we have our first lap times in. Let's follow Kieran now for an onboard real quick. Here we go. Through turn number 2 and through Horty Drive into turn 3 and then 4. This is going through the parking lot of the Lakeside Stadium. You can see all the little lines there. That's where normal cars usually park. Hopefully we'll see no Formula 1 cars park themselves there. Into sector 2. Fastest sector for Kieran Nag. Now through the long right-hander and into Lakeside Drive we go. Another DRS section just ahead as we come under this little bridge thingamajig. Now out to the right-hand side for the famous turn 9, turn 10 combination. Fast left and right-hander, barely keeping it within track limits. Kieran is absolutely gunning it now into the final sector, sector 3. Tricky right-hander of turn 11 into turn 12 and turn 13. And then final corner before the DRS starts again on the main straight. How will Kieran's time compare to that of Zoli and Kevin? The two EVR drivers have been well known for their fast qualifying lap times at Bahrain, but this time Kieran can only manage a 6/10 slower lap time as he now goes on his out lap and will bring the car straight back in. Drivers who will not be bringing it in is going to be Enzo, who's actually on his lap out for the FRC team in the Mercedes. This will be his first race of the season. And he'll be looking to improve on his team's positions in the standings. Now this first section, this first 5, maybe even 10 minutes of qualifying is usually the most chill. This is usually the time where drivers are just trying to build up their lap times. They're just trying to build on their previous time, work out what they made, what errors they made in the previous lap, and then they just build on that, and if there are qualifying setup issues, they fix that, they tweak a little thing here, they tweak a little thing here. But towards the end, qualifying gets really intense. Towards the end, qualifying is awesome. But as it stands, Zoli and Kevin, again, two EVR drivers up in the top 3 positions, up in the podium positions to start off with. But here's Enzo, who is looking to improve on his 14th position. He is currently basically the last driver who set a lap time without making an error. Who will get pole? Maze. I have no clue. Kevin seemed very quick last week, if it is the same Kevin, because they changed the name a little bit, I'm assuming. So it might be the same Kevins from last week, who set an absolutely blistering time to start with, and then at the last second set just that tiny bit faster lap time to give him a gap to the drivers behind. And it was a good thing he did, because the other guys also managed to set quicker lap times. And yes, it is Kevin's from last week, so judging purely on that, it might be Kevin's, but his teammate Zoli is not far off. They're quite closely matched. Red Flame Joe, he seemed quite quick during the race, however his qualifying pace wasn't as great. James currently on pole with a 1:15.544, only 6,000ths faster than Zoli, and unfortunately Enzo spins it on the penultimate corner to invalidate his lap time, and I'm assuming he'll just be heading straight into the pits, and that is going to be a desperate few last minutes for the Mercedes driver for the FRC team. Gabza was a very quick driver during the race. He got fastest lap, so I'm not sure. Some drivers definitely perform better during the race than they do in qualifying, just down to the nature of the session. Racing, well, during the race session, it's more just consistency, putting in fast lap times all the way, not just one big effort. That might be Gabza's skill set, whereas for Zoli, who is actually just retired, that was kind of a 50-50. He was great at qualifying pace and he was great at race pace, and that's the best driver combo. That is how the best drivers work. They have an even ratio between performance, i.e. pace, and consistency, and once you get that perfect balance, boom, you're on the top. Now, it's not just about balance, because you could be very slow and you could be very consistently slow. So you kind of need to keep that in mind. You need to be quick, but you need to be consistently quick, which is obviously challenging for some people. For Red Flame Joe, it was challenging in that his qualifying pace wasn't the quickest. He got P4 or 5 during the qualifying session last week, and he'll be looking to improve on that as he comes into the pits. Who is on an out lap? Because that's the annoying part, is you're so entranced with just seeing the cars go by, and there's just so much chaos. You don't actually know who's on an out lap, who's on a flying lap, who's on an in lap. Just judging by the pace, I'm assuming this DLX is on an in lap. Antonio, he'll be on an in lap. Same with P. I think we basically just missed everyone's flying laps. ERS Silver is coming into the pits. However, let's have a look at James right up at the top. P1 at the moment. James secured a podium position last week after some post-race incidents got sorted out. And I was actually shocked, because initially, looking at the race results, in the moment, he finished P7, starting from P19. But I'm assuming that was after a 3-second time penalty. And just at the last moment, we had a massive gaggle of guys from P4 through to P8, Kevin's being the last of those, to come across the line fighting for positions. And all of those, I'm assuming, were then within 3 seconds. And somehow, James then got promoted up into P3 after all those, as well as a 3-second time penalty for Zoliax, I think. So that literally, Lucas came across the line first, then Red Flame Joe. Because of the time penalty, it was the other way around, but it got fixed later on. And then, yeah, suddenly midway through the week, we found, oh, James from the Xbox Pro Gamers has a podium. So yeah, after a great performance from him and XPG S29, who also finished within the top 5, that has put them in one of the top spots. Knight comes across the line to set the pole position for the Alien Motorsport team. They have also been consistently at the top. P1 in the team standings at the moment, with a 6-point lead over both the Xbox Pro Gamers and Evolution Racing team. And if you're wondering who that is in terms of cars, that's just going to be the McLarens and the Aston Martin, who we're following right now. Kevin's comes across the line. There we go. Kevin's putting in his lap time, a 1:15.2, and XPG James sliding all over the place. I don't think this is going to be a faster lap time for him. It is unfortunate, but hey-ho, he'll have to take it and come across the final corner and across the finish line to take it as it is. And it's not a bad lap time. He actually takes P2 with that, a 1:15.3. So P2 for James, despite some sliding. Could this be a battle for the pole position? He's only a 10th off of Kevin's, and he's had a lap now, but he does seem to be a little laggy, a little all over the place, so we'll have to see how it goes, but it seems to be potentially a tight fight for the pole position. Jerem for the F1 AC team, he has cut off 0.3 of his last lap time, and that put him up into P6. Kart is now coming out into the qualifying session, the Haas 1:15.6, and I think someone just moved up again. I'm not sure who that was. It's a Haas 1, 2 in 5th and 6th, so it's a Haas 5 and 6. They'll be starting alongside each other on the grid at this pace, but of course Kart can change that, coming into Sector 2 now. He's just above his previous lap time, 5 minutes remaining, so maybe 2 more fast lap attempts for most people. Maybe 1 more flying lap for the drivers who are finishing their flying laps now. Maybe drivers such as Kart, who is still just not able to break into the negative signs, I guess, if you will. I'm not sure how to say it. Would you say he's gaining time, or is less time? You know, that plus minus thing of when it's minus it's green, or if he's gaining time, if it's faster it's going to be put. I don't know. You can have a whole discussion about whether you should say he's gaining time, he's losing time during qualifying. All I know is he's gunning for one of the top spots as he comes across the line, and it is going to be a 1:15.4. Yes, into one of the top spots indeed, into the final podium position. Good starting position for Kart. Gabza unable to also set a fast lap time, still down in P6. Could we see another driver from the lower categories? We've got Nocta in the XR8 team in the RB, currently down in P18. He hasn't even set a lap time, and there are only 3 minutes remaining in the session. We'll have to see how that works out for him. FRC Tom on an out lap. Both FRC cars are out at the moment. FRC Tom will be the first to set his lap time. Now Zoli and Silva have both retired from the session, so ERS Silva is pretty much locked into penultimate place unless Nocta can just get a lap done. If he can get a lap under 1:18.1, boom, easy position. For Zoliax it's a little more complex because he's on a 1:15.5 now. Drivers will most likely be absolutely sending it in these last couple minutes of qualifying. It'll literally be one qualifying lap, one flying lap that they'll be able to get round to, if that, you know, if they can get out the pits in time. But unfortunately for Tom, he has invalidated his lap time, so I'm not sure he'll be able to get another lap in. Kieran for the other RB, currently on an out lap. The Grand Dada also on an out lap. And did I mention that? Oh yeah, I did. That the F1 Academy France team, with all the temptation to go French there and say it with a French accent is overwhelming, but I did it. The Grand Dada and Jerem, of course, the only drivers to be in exactly the same lineup as last week. However, you know, since they didn't perform too well, you know, there's questions concerning that. Unless, you know, this is maybe their home track. You know, they may be great at this. I did actually have a look at who was going to have a home race here, who was Australian or not. And unfortunately, the only drivers that were Australian in some of these European-dominated teams weren't racing today. So it was a bit sad. You know, we don't have any Australians racing at their home circuit. But hey-ho, we move forward. The racing's going to be great anyways. The Grandada will be one of the first drivers to set a lap time. We do, of course, have our top 4. I would say top 5 if Zoliax was competing, but top 4 now out on their out laps. AMS Kick for the Alien Motorsport team also setting his lap time. I think we could keep an eye on him. Definitely top 10 finish, but whether he can get a top 5 or not, that's going to be a different question. The Grandada shaves off almost a 10th. This could be enough to secure him inside that top 10, just in case Kieran gets a faster lap time. And there is some good movement here. Knight in P4 still. Enzo finally sets a fast lap time for the FRC team. This means that the Grandada has to absolutely send it. But unfortunately, that seems to be a very slow-moving Williams vehicle. And it is not a good lap time and not a good day for the Grandada in terms of qualifying, but one battle that is going to be awesome to watch is going to be Kevin's and James. These two drivers. Kevin's showed some great potential during the race. He had some good pace, some consistent pace. Maybe not as fast as he was during qualifying, but, you know, one of those drivers that seemed well-rounded. Gabza also retires from the session alongside Kalu Blue, so that means at least P6 for Gabza, and by at least I mean he could drop further down. Here we go. Kevin's final lap time for quali. How will he do? Can he secure himself a pole position? Can he improve on his time to give him a little more space from James as he comes across the line? Can he do it? No, he can't. That little spin at the end, maybe celebratory if you will. James now comes across the line at 115.3, unable to improve. Knight down in P4. Is he going to improve? No, because he's had a horrible lap time. Red Flame Joe also coming into the pits. I think that is pretty much the order locked. The Grandada, maybe an attempt. Is this going to be a second flying lap for him? No. So that's pretty much it. Not as kinetic as we had last week. Kevin's taking pole position once again. XPG James having a good starting position to launch into the race and get yet another podium this race. Fingers crossed, I'm sure, for him. QSL kart for the QSL team and the Haas in P3. Maybe he's looking for the first podium for the team. They were close to it last week. They had some great pace during the race last week, just not consistent quality results. So we'll have to see how that turns out for them. Again, Zoliax also in the top 5 for the EVR team. And again, there's an Alpine, an Alien Motorsport team up in the top car, the team car up in the top 5. But unfortunately, their other car not quite as far up. An interesting qualifying session then, not really too kinetic. Kevin taking once again pole position, an extra point for him in the championship. XPG James just 4 hundredths off of Kevin's full pole position. The Haas of kart in the QSL team, unfortunately just not quite able to make the cut to take the pole position or P2. This all sets us up for a great race into the 29 laps of the Australian Grand Prix. We'll be back in just a moment. And here we go. Apologies for the delay, ladies and gents. We had some technical issues, but we are back and ready to get started. Ready to start the second round of the Season 8 Championship. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Yeah, it has been a bit of a long one tonight already. Again, due to technical issues, some hosting stuff, but ready to get some racing started. So it should be much smoother from now, and hopefully we can get a good race in. Some things have been thrown around a bit, so around a bit in some chat. So we'll see how the on-track rivalries go. But one rivalry I'm looking forward to watching is, of course, the age-old EVR PEC rivalry between James and Kevin's, who last week, unfortunately, almost got to share a podium, but unfortunately for Kevin's, he got spun, or spun himself. I remember the verdict being that it was racing incident or something like that, but yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. We'll have to see how it indeed all goes. I'm all hyped up. Second race here in Australia. And if you didn't make it for qualifying, it was quite boring compared to last week, but still, you know, it set up the grid quite nicely for the race here. And here we go, the lights come on. And 18 cars go roaring down to turn one. It's go time, and we've got the pit strategies up on screen. The McLaren is ahead. He's managed to stay there. James files in behind. The two Haas's of Kart and Gabza also move in behind. Who else do we have coming across? We do have two of the Ferraris at the back, not really making any progress. Zoliak's dropping, Enzo, Kalu, Blue also dropping, but as it stands, it's the same order for the top three. XPG James in P2, Kart in P3, Gabza up to P4, Knight down to P5, and everyone just files through here, nice and neat for the first lap. If we can keep it clean, we might be able to get some good overtakes next lap, or even here. There is a move from one of the Haas cars. It does look like Kart's getting a little racy behind the Aston Martin of James, but unfortunately nothing there. James has to catch up to the back of Zunberg before the DRS window disappears, because he's up to 6/10 now. He needs to be within a second to keep the DRS, and if you can stay within that DRS chain, you'll have a good advantage here, and you'll be able to keep up to the rest of the pack. So everyone made it through lap one safely, so to speak. I'm not sure how many wings are missing or how much damage has been unleashed upon the Albert Park Reserve site, but as it stands, everyone seems to be in one piece. Kart still right up on the back of James. Could this be an opportunity into turn number 3 and 4? Not quite, but he is close though, and they all are still within that 1 second gap. The only drivers who are close to that gap is right at the back, Nocta and ERS Silver. They are in danger of dropping off the back of the grid. But so far, so good. Everyone just keeping it nice and neat. James maybe a wheel into the gravel. We'll see how this affects his straight line speed now as they go through a lakeside drive, and everything does seem to be in order. Everyone's still safe in the background though. Knight potentially a look into the left hand, and no, they keep having these little glances, and I think, oh, there's a move. Nope, not quite. Nocta and Silver swap positions, and as they do so, they lose time. Here's a move from Knight on to Gabza. He's alongside, and he's just given enough room, and unfortunately not able to make the move stick. Some good clean racing between him and Gabza. There is Jerem also in the background for the F1 Academy France car. It's a yellow flag. That is going to be Nocta in the XR8 behind. We do have some movement from QSL Kart though onto the Xbox Pro Gamer car. Is it going to be moving to turn 1? No, he's not quite close enough. It seemed to be a little dodgy there. A little bit of internet interference maybe, but here we go. Here's the DRS. There's a move from Kart. Up the inside, not quite enough space, and there is Knight as well in the background. He got the move done. Is it going to be 2 positions for Knight in the Alien Motorsport car, in the Alpine? Can't quite get that done through turn 4. Now into the DRS zone potentially after turn 8. Is that going to be his next opportunity to make up yet another position? He's stuck inside that Haas/QSL sandwich now as everyone deploys their DRS. And Gabs are not quite happy letting Knight get away with that move. As we've said so many times, you know, the moment you lose that position, you might go into a red mist depending on who you are. There is a move from Red Flame Joe there. Very close as they went through the right-hander. But he's got past now, just about. Oh my goodness, and there's chaos there. A little bit of contact between them. Red Flame Joe. Yeah, again, internet stuff going wild tonight. Red Flame Joe up to P6 after a good move on Jerem. Any drivers that we need to keep an eye out for on this next straight? We do have Cart is quite close behind James, potentially for P2. The order for the top three is exactly the same as it was from the start. Still Kevin's leading, James P2, Cart P3, but he wants to change that soon. He wants a position. There's Zoliex in the background, almost getting moved on Jerem. Coming out this corner though, they are still fighting heavily for that position. Through the right hand and just enough space given, but it is Jerem who kisses the wall and loses out to the McLaren of the Evolution Racing team. QSL Kart again, 0.16 seconds off the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin's not too far off the McLaren though. Could this be P1 at stake here, the race lead? Coming into turns 9 and then 10, it is still within 2 tenths, all the way up until about P6. Everyone's within 3 tenths of each other. This is incredible racing, but we didn't see Knight going for the move up into P3. Can he get it stopped? Yes, he can, but it's a cutback from the Haas. He gets almost gets another move. He almost gets the move done on the Aston Martin, and there's contact between them. That is Cart off into the grass. Can he rejoin safely? Yes, he can somewhat, but it is going to be Kieran who gives him a little nudge from behind. Oh, that has not gone right for him at all. Going from P3 all the way down to P11 with just a simple bump. That is how quickly things can change. And Kieran says, nope, make that 12 positions. Yeah, you're going to lose loads more. Jerem. Nope, sorry, Grandada gets the move done. On to Kick as well. Zoli still ahead. Knight, in all that, got promoted all the way up to P3. So he's gone from P5 through the Haas sandwich up into the final podium position. Can he make it up into P2 though, is the question. The Alien Motorsport cars have been really quick so far this season, even though we've only had one race so far. Here we go, he needs to watch out for Gabza, the other QSL Motorsport car, and there we go, in the foreground we see James takes the race lead. There we go, Kevin's now down to P2. Just in the foreground, just happened so quick, didn't even see it coming. Two involved with Knight and Gabza, who could then end up fighting for P2 if Kevin's gets caught up. We keep getting now 3-second time penalties, I'm assuming for track limits, but still not entirely sure what those are for. Penalties, I mean, not track limits. I understand how track limits work. Oh, Zodiac is really close behind Jerem for P6. Could this be a move into turn 1? He has a look. That cost him a little bit of speed though. If he just stayed in the slipstream, he could have been there all the way. Kieran's retires from the session, same as Silver. And there is a yellow flag in Sector 3 as some cars come into the pits now. Oh my goodness, and it's a big fight ahead. AMS Knight, and there's James going off to the side. This is for the race lead, ladies and gents. Knight on the inside. Kevin's comes around the outside to retake the lead. Red Flame Joe also getting involved. Gabza, Knight, Jerem also in there. It is a 5-way fight for the lead. And as it stands, Kevin's comes out on top. Red Flame Joe having to tussle with Jerem for the P4 position. All the drivers in the top 5 are vying for the race lead, but now as they head into turn 10, it is still all single file though. I'm not sure anyone's gotten through there without damage though. It was chaos. Here we go into turn 11, and there was a look from the Alpine. Zodiac makes the move on the Red Flame Joe, and he's been waiting for that a while now, ever since last week. In fact, Red Flame Joe gets back with a cutback in the background, but we still follow Knight and Kevin's. How close are they? And how close is that Haas behind? He is closer. Could we see him moving to turn 1? Not quite. He doesn't actually get any DRS, so the QSL Esport car getting left behind on the straight somewhat, but he's still within that 0.2 second gap, so you could still get some DRS. Here we go, Knight round the outside for the race lead. Kevin's down to P2. He's been in this position before. As long as he stays calm, he can retake the position. For a track that supposedly doesn't allow for many overtaking opportunities, we've seen some absolutely banger moves. 10-second time penalty for Pei in the ERS car, the Ferrari down in P15. So pit stop for him already. Here we go, Gabza around the outside in P3, looking for P2, down the inside now for the next corner. I think he's backed out slightly, and it is safety car actually. Safety car 4. Where is that? Is that potentially going to be one of the cars further down? Tom's just come out, Pay's come out as well. Is that going to be Kart? Is that going to be because of some parts left on the track by Kart? No. Nocta? No. So, wow, intense start, so intense that it still hasn't quite hit yet. It's been so quick. But yes, safety car on lap 7. Could we see some early pit stops? Yes, we do. Here we go. Everyone comes into the pits. Kevin's, Gabza, Red Flame Joe, Zoliex decides to stay out. Grandada, Enzo also comes into pit. Oh my goodness. So in all this, Zoliex gets promoted all the way up to P1. I don't even have time to go over what just happened. It just all happened so quick. And yeah, there we go. Zoliex being picked up by the safety car, an odd sight. And where does Nocta come out of this? Because I noticed he made some positions through all the pit stops, but he's also gone in for the pit stop. So it's still pretty much the same order as they come out, but of course one position down now. There is Knight in the background, and Kevin's, the two ERS cars are further down. One's in P14, the other one's in P18, but I keep getting the ERS and the EVR teams confused because they both start with E. I know it's stupid, I know it's a really basic thing, but, you know, it's still funny to me. So, your order then is Zoliex, Knight, Zunberg, Gabza, and then Red Flame Joe. Some very familiar names, and Knight being the newcomer to the top 5 party. Further down, the Grandada in P6, Enzo in P7, Kick in P8, Jerem P9, and Antonio Jesus finishing off with the DLX team in P10. Let's have a quick look at the positions gained so far, because this could be quite interesting to look at. So positions gained, Zoliex up 4 from where he started, AMS Knight up 2, Kevin's dropped 2, Gabs are up to the biggest gainer here is of course Nocta, who started out in P18. He's up to P12 now. Biggest loser is Kart, who of course went off at turn 13 into the grass after a collision with one of the overtaking cars. And there is Zoliex pitting now, and I'm sure he is very much regretting his decision not to go in when the safety car was just about to come out. Maybe he got caught off guard, but considering everyone else peeled off into the pits just before he did, he maybe didn't have his pit stops set up and ready to go. So yeah, that means Zoliex will come out as the biggest loser now, rather than Kart, who'll be coming out as 9 positions lost. So yeah, not good at all. So everyone's made a stop, everyone's on hards, everyone seems to be trying to make it last until the end, but whether that is a feasible strategy, we'll have to wait and see. As it stands, safety car still out. Not sure when it will come in. We'll have to wait for the announcement. Well, I've sometimes had it that it doesn't actually announce anything, which is really weird. And as we wait for the safety car to finish, some spectators might be tempted to look up into the trees, although considering the amount of action we've had so far, they might want to keep their eyes down and get ready for the restart, even though we don't quite know when it is. They're still on edge, they just want to see what happens. But if they do so happen to glance into the trees, they might see a marsupial called the koala bear, which is erroneously called that. It's not generally called the koala bear. Just because it looks like one doesn't mean it is one, especially considering it's only about 60 to 85 centimeters long, weighs up to 14 kg, so about 10%, if not even less, the weight of an F1 car. It would take a lot of koala bears to weigh the same as a car, but these guys won't be looking to imitate the koala bear in its placid nature as the safety car as the safety car pulls in and the racing is about to get back underway. Knight will be the one to get the field going again. Is he backing them up all up into turn 13 and 14? Maybe. Is he going to try and get a run on them out the final corner? Well, here we go. Racing gets back underway. Kevin's in the lead. Sorry, Knight up in the lead, not Kevin's. Kevin's P2, Gabza P3, Red Flame Joe P4, P5 for the Grand Dada. Any chaos into turn 1? No, so far it's all clean. 0.1 seconds between Kevin's and Knight. Is this going to be Knight having to defend from Kevin's at the first opportunity? No. Surprisingly not. Card's making some good progress. Antonio Jesus receives a 3-second time penalty. And everyone's still in the same order. Knight, then Kevin's, then Gabza. For our top 3, Red Flame Joe P4, Grand Dada up into P5 after, of course, Zodiac's dropped down the grid, and he's dropping now as well. Is there contact there? I'm not sure. Nocta is bringing up the rear a very long way away, but we focus on the lead though, because Knight has got a McLaren right up his bum, and he's not quite sure. He wants to see that orange car so close. Top 5 are all incredibly close. Enzo also 0.6, Kick 0.1 seconds. Everyone's really close. A little look from the McLaren there. Here is Gabza on the inside potentially for P2. Did have a look. It looks like he wanted to take a go at it, but it's a wide run through turn 13 for Kevin's. That will put him at risk from Gabza. Gabza himself is under risk from the Sauber of Red Flame Joe. You can see it's all race control has enabled DRS, so from here pretty much we'll get another run of DRS, and you can see actually Red Flame Joe had to lift in order not to hit the rear of Gabza. Into turn 3 here we go, and he is down the inside, but unfortunately not far enough alongside to warrant any racing room. Behind him he has got the Grand Dada to think about, but he's a little further behind, so not really too much of a worry at this point in time. He does seem to have a pace advantage over Gabza though, so we'll have to see how this goes. As I say that, in fact, Gabza gets closer to Kevin's and actually pulls away from Red Flame Joe a little bit, so we'll have to see how this all pans out into the next lap. Kevin's has gained some time on Knight as well, 0.1 seconds. That DRS really does work miracles, doesn't it? Jerem, 0.3 seconds off of Kick. I feel like I'm just like one of those bingo guys that just keep... No, it's not bingo, is it? No, it's... There's one game I feel where you have to keep reading off the numbers. Hyde plays bingo, maybe. I don't know, is there such a thing as 200 mile an hour bingo games? I don't know, but that is what these guys are playing. If they're not careful, they might receive some contact from a car behind, from a car in front. Gabza is really close to Kevin's, who feels the need to pull a little bit to the inside line and defend his position, but it's still not quite there. 0.1 seconds between these guys for the race lead, potentially. Red Flame Joe looking very racy indeed behind Gabza. It's almost identical lap times between the top 4 as they head into lap 13. And don't mind the safety car graphic up on screen. That's something that takes a while to disappear. I'm assuming it's a bug, so we'll see if we can get it'll disappear at some point. But one thing that might disappear is the P2 position for Kevin's, as Gabza now goes down the inside through the long left-hander. He's being held up by Knight though, and there we go. There's Zoneberg round the outside, who takes the race lead, and Gabza, unfortunately, even though he did have the inside line, got held up by Knight. So in all of that, Knight and Kevin's just switch positions for P1 and P2. Great little bit of action there. Maybe even a deliberate squeeze from Kevin's to make sure that Gabza stayed behind the Alpine. Maybe, maybe not. All I know is that that P2 position disappeared for Gabza. That possibility disappeared a while ago, and Kevin set the fastest lap time, an extra point potentially on hand. We'll see how it goes. Zodiac and Antonio Jesus down in 11th position, having a fight potentially for some good points hauls. There's Red Flame Joe, a move on the Haas, a full send down the inside. Can he hold on as they exit the chicane though? Yes he can. That is Flame Joe up into the final podium position. Great overtake into the Lakeside Stadium parking lot. It's not quite often you get to say that someone made an overtake into the parking lot. Gabza is looking to regain that position under DRS, but Knight is also looking for something like that, going around the outside into another chicane. Will he get it done? Yes, he does, despite Kevin's best efforts to keep him behind. Knight now resumes the race lead. Lap 13 of 29. We're almost halfway there. And as it stands, everyone will still need to make their hard tyres last. Do you think we could get someone spinning out things in tyre wear right at the end? I think we might have a few guys struggling with tyre wear, especially when they're locking up so much, just like Knight did on that left front. Oh, and there's a move from Gabza in the background on the final corner, absolutely lunging into the vacant space left by Red Flame Joe. He thought, oh, I might be able to leave a Joey-sized hole, but that was all Gabza needed, although he has managed to mess up that exit, and it's Red Flame Joe almost alongside now through the right-hander. Can't quite get the right positioning though. He's not quite able to hang on to the inside line for turn 4, and he's demoted back down to P4. So Gabza is just holding on to P3, but as they fight, of course, Knight and Kevins then just build this gap, and eventually that gap might build up to more than a second. It's 0.7 at the moment, so if they're not careful, they could lose the DRS from the leaders. That is something that Gabza and Red Flame Joe might need to keep in mind if they want to have a shot at fighting for more points. Again, 18 points for P2, 15 points for P3. That's an extra 3 points you can get. Oh, and it's a lovely move from the Sauber. A little dummy to the outside and small contact between them. The Sauber still alongside, pulls back in behind. Whoa, what a lovely dummy. That was a great move from Red Flame Joe, but unfortunately couldn't make it stick. But as he did so, he has unfortunately opened up that gap even wider. So now only Red Flame Joe has DRS behind Gabza. So Gabza has now dropped outside of that 1 second gap to the leaders. He won't have that DRS anymore unless the leaders start fighting, and they are very close to each other, but I'm not sure. We'll have to see. They do seem to swap positions fairly easily as they go through Lakeside Drive. They don't tend to defend too hard, and even if they do, the DRS is usually strong enough to completely overcome that. So as it stands, Gabza needs to try and break back into that 1 second gap, and it looks like he has 0.7, maybe a bad exit for Kevins. Does he have the DRS? Yes, he does, but so does Red Flame Joe, and Red Flame Joe capitalizes on it down the inside through into turn 9, and Red Flame Joe takes the final podium position. This is kinetic. I thought it would be a little slower than last week. Well, maybe not. Things have happened so quick, I haven't been able to process it. My mouth isn't able to speak fast enough. So yeah, I do apologise if we're missing some action, but it's bound to happen in such a high pace field. Further down in P9, Kart is looking for P8 on Zoliex. He was 0.2 seconds just a moment ago. Jerem is now 0.2 seconds off of Enzo. The F1 Academy France. I did it. I'm sorry. But he is gaining on the FRC team driver of Enzo, who's in his first race for the season. He's not doing too badly. P6 and 2 Academy France cars in the top 10. That's not bad. Same for the EVR guys. Red Flame Joe, the PEC driver, the only one for his team tonight. He'll have to pull in a podium finish for sure to keep his good haul of team points going. He's looking for 18 points now rather than 15 points, a 3-point improvement as they head through Lakeside Drive. This is going to be another move for the race lead. They're side by side in the lead. Kevin's side by side with 9, and it's 3 wide as they head into turn 11 and 12 now. Red Flame Joe now down the inside. Is this going to be 2 positions in 3 corners for the PEC driver? Yes, it is. He's got that inside line. Can he get across? Yes, he does. And Red Flame Joe goes from P3 all the way up into the race lead in just a couple corners, and he's back up into the race lead, a familiar position from last week. Kevins will once again have to stare at the green rear wing of that Sauber for a couple more laps, and Knight will have to do the same as he looks at an orange rear wing, not a green one. But yeah, we'll have to see how this all goes, because now it's P5 and P6 for the 2 Academy France cars. who have managed to squeeze out Enzo. Enzo's now having a massive battle with Zoliax for P7. So a little bit of movement back here. Jerem managing to get past the other FRC car. Woo! Here we go, Gabza looking for P3 yet again. There are so many drivers that deserve to be up here, but it's of course going to be a scrap to find out who will stay up there. It's really close as they head into turns 9 and 10. The Grand Dada also getting involved now. The Academy cars potentially starting to find 4 podium positions. Again, I'm kind of mindful of the pit stops. Could we see some drivers maybe come in a little later, not quite ready, not quite managing their tyre wear as well? I don't know, we'll have to see how it goes. A lock-up from Gabza. Again, those lock-ups are absolutely horrendous when it comes to your tyre wear. They are going to be the biggest factor when it comes to keeping your tyre wear low. There we go, DRS for the McLaren. Again, everyone tucks in nice and neat for that train, and everyone's managed to keep within second now. It's pretty much the top 10, excluding P10 position himself, Kick and the other Alpine, who are all within a second. It's 3 seconds, 3.5 between Enzo and Kick, in fact. So there's that gap that they have now. It's the top 10 pretty much that could all end up in a podium position at this point, considering the amount of energy and dynamicness, so to speak, we've had at the start. Knight is only 0.1 seconds off of Kevin's. Could he put him behind him for P2? Kevin's defends yet again, and he has to come back in behind into turns 9 and 10. It's the same position. This everything's on the line. Like, we've got no clue who could come out on top. Everything's up in the air at the moment. Knight is putting Kevin's under a load of pressure though. He's putting him under a lot of pressure. Only 0.14 seconds it was at its minimum. What would you say maximum? I don't know. Again, the timing is weird. Timing can be weird, but Knight is right behind him now. He does have DRS, so does Kevin's. Ooh, Kevin's covering that inside line just in case the Alpine can get a run. Change of position between Antonio and Kick. 0.4 second gap between Red Flame Joe and Kevin's now. Well, that's closed up after a mistake from the leader. Again, top 5 all within 0.3 seconds of each other pretty much. Top 6 in fact. Kart back up into P7, so he's recovering quite well. If he can fight his way back up into the podium positions, that would be absolutely incredible. As it stands, they do need some points to make up some positions in the championship. But here we go. It is Red Flame Joe defending. Kevin's reclaims the race lead. Demotes Red Flame Joe to P2, and Knight is down to P3. Red Flame Joe can't accept that though, making a move down into his favourite overtaking zone. Turns 11 and then turn 12, and he's got that move back up into P1. So some great racing here for the top positions. And the guys behind, Grand Dada, Gabza, they're all looking a bit racy. And can I actually see the other car of Kart? Yes, I can. This safety car worked out perfectly for the other QSL car. The Grand Dada feeling the need to go either defensive or offensive. The camera angle made it difficult to see. There might be both. 0.119 seconds between the Grand Dada and Gabza. There's a move potentially into the next corner. Oh, and there is Kart going down the inside. A little bit of side-by-side action, not quite far enough alongside to start fighting for that position yet. Woo! 10 laps to go now. Can you believe it? We're just suddenly thrown into 10 laps to go. It's just suddenly all flown by. Indeed, Labambon Kart's comeback has been absolutely incredible so far, up into P6. I can see another move potentially happening into the next corner. Not quite, he's not quite close enough though. He needs to keep building that, he needs to keep working on it. But as it stands, yes, we have a PEC car in the race lead, 2 EVR cars in the top 10, almost 2 QSL cars in the top 5. Kart just needs to get that move done on the Academy car ahead. Just needs to get ahead of the Grand Dada. Again, you can see 4 0.7 seconds between Enzo and Antonio Jesus, P9 and P10. This top 10 is incredibly close, and then it's close between Antonio Jesus and Kick, and then Tom and Callum Blue for those other positions. They're going to be fighting for those last few points positions. It's going to be a lot of... Oh my goodness, and that's Kevins who spins. Kevins, who was running in P2, has spun himself heading into the Lakeside Stadium parking lot. And you're only supposed to spin and do donuts there when you're a kid, maybe sneaking in some sneaky time on your mum's car. But in an F1 car, it's a whole lot more dangerous, and as a result, he loses 6 positions, all the way down to P8 now. And he manages to stay ahead of his teammate Zoliex, but that means Red Flame Joe is promoted to the race lead. Again, very similar scenario to last week, except this time Red Flame Joe was ahead, so he has no reason to worry about any penalties or racing incidents whatsoever. Ugh. Voice just went really weird now. Kevin's trying to make up some positions really quickly, but as he does so, he needs to bear in mind again, he needs to keep in mind there is that DRS gap that he needs to work on. Oh my goodness, and that is Jerem going round after McLaren has spun a caution. Sector 3, yellow flags up there. QSL Gabza potentially getting a move done. Knight did have a look at the race lead. He was having a look, but he's not quite there. And Gabza in P3 once again, still in the podium positions. Could this be maybe 2 cars for the QSL inside the podium positions? Well, they've already got 2 cars in the top 5, so that's the first kind of objective done. But yeah, Le Bonbonnet obviously as well, and Maxence, yes, potentially a double podium on the cards for these guys. We'll have to wait and see what Knight and Joe decide. Of course, Grandada in that QSL sandwich could get in the way of as well. Sorry, my voice is going all sorts of different ways, and I'm just looking at the word jinx, le commentateur. Maxence, yeah, hopefully this isn't a commentator's curse. Hopefully. I haven't been around long enough to figure out whether I have a particular niche for commentators' curses. But I mean, I called it on the qualifying, saying Kevin's got it. Although, to be fair, you know, that was just a prediction come true, so I don't think there's really a curse there, but, you know, we'll see. The Grandada actually, alongside Gabza now, decides he wants to get out of this QSL sandwich, and he makes it right up into P3. Grandada, for the first time this season, manages to get himself into a podium position. Great progress from this driver. Jerem, unfortunately, has been dropping, so he's not quite contributing as much to the team as the Grandada is. I'm sure Grandada is happy with his performance, though. He's just happy he's up here in the top 5, in the top 3. So yeah, commentator's curse maybe kicking in a little early, but it's not over yet. It's not over yet. 7 laps of racing to go. Red Flame Joe still in the lead. Knight losing some ground, but he's not quite close enough for a move yet. Kevin's back up behind Cart as well, 0.2 seconds. Again, can we just appreciate how much of a recovery run Cart has managed to progress through. He's managed to get back up into P5 after spinning from one of the podium positions. So yeah, some good movement. Knight receives a 3-second time penalty. Again, I'm assuming this is all for track limits. And we've had all this chaos happen last week at Bahrain. What's new? What's new, though, is Grandada really close to the rear of Knight, potentially looking at a P2 position. We'll have to see. There we go, really close up behind him. He's putting Knight under some pressure. Knight has felt this pressure before, but not from a Formula 1 Academy France car. Again, I'm so sorry, the temptation to go French on this, go full French accent, is very tempting. He needs to watch out for Gabza, though, who might be looking to make some French toast out of him if he's not careful. Though, you know, Grandada did that anyways, getting outside the toasty, that little sandwich of the QSL cars. There's a bigger gap, though. Here we go, there it is, move from Knight for the race lead around the outside, using the DRS. Grandada now in P3, Red Flame Joe demoted to P2. Will Red Flame Joe be able to make up that position into his favourite overtaking zone. No, he can't because he doesn't have any DRS to do so. There is Gabza down the inside for P3 in the background as well. Good space left behind, and of course Kart is losing ground to both EVR cars. They've both managed to get around him. Was that a mistake from Kart and the two cars just capitalised, or was it just both managed to just absolutely send it? But commentators curse, karma kicking in already. I hope it, I don't know, I can't be biased. Kart, yeah, he's lost out a couple positions and he's now stuck behind Zoliax, who is outside the DRS window, if you will. So it's going to be a tough way to work back up into the podium positions for Kart, even just the top 5. Kevin's back up into the top 5. He could potentially find his way there. He is within that 1 second window. So here we go. Might be another way into the podium positions. It's all on edge now, though. 5 laps remaining. It is heating up yet again. I'm sure final lap will have some nuts stuff going on. Here we go. Red Flame Joe reclaims the lead. It's not even a big thing anymore, but you know, it could be the final move for the lead. Who knows? Knight might end up spinning off at turn 13 just like Kart did, finding himself demoted all the way down to P7. And Kick has left the session down to P10. What's happened there? Connection maybe? I don't know. But again, we're counting down the laps, and it just feels like everything's just happened so quickly. You know, we're already 4 laps to go. We're counting down every single lap. Fairly neat and tidy, all nip and tuck as they head through the first sector into turn 6 now. Whew. You know, we can see a couple gnarly things happening. Knight with his 3-second time penalty will most likely lose out on a top 5 finish, maybe even top 7 finish, considering how close all the other cars are, but that won't deter him from trying to take the race lead. He did have a look around the outside. Red Flame Joe covering off the inside again. Top 5 now, getting a gap to the top 6 downwards. Kart ahead of Zoliax, but he's 2.4 seconds behind Kevin's, and we know how quick Kevin's is during qualifying. Again, 5 drivers who all absolutely 100% deserve to finish on the podium and win the race, considering their performance tonight, both their qualifying performance and their race performance. But again, it's just, so much could go wrong here as well. So much could happen. Again, no moves into turn 1. It is quite an interesting overtaking place. We haven't seen anyone try it tonight. But who knows, last lap that could be the measure some drivers have to take in order to make a position. That could be the more desperate drivers, so to speak. But yeah, Jerem also on Calo Blue. Jerem's just falling down the grid. He's just losing out. We do only have point scoring positions available though. P15 knocked at 27 seconds behind Pei, who's 50 seconds behind. That's a massive gap, so points guaranteed, but Knight is going to be looking for some extra points round the outside, and he does take the race lead on 3 laps to go. This is it. Could this be a crucial overtake? Could Red Flame Joe then face some challenges from Grandada behind? Yes, he does, in his own favourite overtaking position, and there is almost a spin from the Grandada, and unfortunately he has pretty much thrown his attempt at P2 in the bin, unfortunately, with a little bit of oversteer. Again, there are no not again, I haven't mentioned it yet, but there are no assists, so traction control and ABS are off. That won't deter the Grandada though from trying to make a move on one of the faster drivers in the competition, but unfortunately he can't quite get there. I think this might be the Grandada's chance at a podium blown, because Kevin's is not going to let him through, Gabza is not going to let him through, and Red Flame Joe and Knight are too involved in their fight to even worry about it. Kevin's though has got a penalty, so this could allow the Grandada up. Same with Knight, so at the end of the day, all those penalties applied, it could be one of the Academy French cars on the podium. maybe even P2. We'll see. Depends on what Gabza does. If Gabza gets a penalty or he crashes or whatever, you know, we're definitely not wishing any of that. The commentator's curse has been alive and well today already. Two Haas cars are almost in the top 5. Kart in P6, Gabza P3, and Zoliex and Kart are having a magnificent battle down in P6, but we can't take our eyes away from this because Gabza is looking racy behind Red Flame Joe, and the Grandada is also looking for his fair share of this 5-way battle for the race lead. Pei comes across the line to take fastest lap, so even though he is down in P14, he'll score 2 points rather than just... Sorry, 3 points. 3 points because he scores 2 for the penultimate position. Woo! Here we go, last lap of the race, ladies and gents. This is going to be the most hectic one of them all, the one lap to rule them all. Red Flame Joe in P2 will be looking to take the race lead. Gabza looking round the outside for P2. Could this be his chance? No. Red Flame Joe down the inside into the parking lot once more. They all stay in the same order. The Grandada might just have to stay patient. He might just have to wait until the finish line. He could make some positions, but again, it's very, very risky to do so. 0.4 seconds between Red Flame Joe and Knight, though. That gap has opened up slightly. Is this Gabza's chance to potentially even take the race win at this point if Knight's time penalty gets applied into turn 9? Little bit of movement, not quite sure who's going to come out on top into the final couple corners, final sector of the race. Here we go, Gabza P3, Red Flame Joe, a move down the inside for potentially the race win. Oh my goodness, and they touch! There is contact, and that has left Red Flame Joe in the race lead. Gabza takes P2, Kevin's up into P3. The Grandada takes P4, and in all that, Knight goes from P1 to P5. And Red Flame Joe comes across the line for the second time as the winner for the race. Red Flame Joe wins the Australian Grand Prix. Gabza takes P2, and the Grandada for the F1 Academy France team takes the first podium for the team. Wow! Oh my goodness. The rest of the cars file in now. Kevin's keeps him in the top 5, so does Knight. Zoliex P6, Kart unfortunately not able to keep the momentum going from his recovery drive, down in P8. Woo! Wow. Things happened so quick at the start, couldn't keep up. Things happened at the end, kind of kept up, and as you can see, my brain has been kept up into mush. It is just so much happened in the last lap. The last couple corners, last corner, turn 11 and 12, favourite overtaking zone for Red Flame Joe. I'm not sure he'll hold on to this though. I think we might have the stewards take a look at this. This could potentially be some post-race stuff happening again. And again, Red Flame Joe may be losing out on a race win here, but we'll have to wait and see what their decision is. Drive of the day being Grandada, absolutely. Starting from a little further down the grid, he has made his way up into the final podium position as our drivers now get onto the podium for their celebrations. Red Flame Joe once more up on the top step, Gabza alongside, and the Grandada on the other. And wow, what a race. Again, kinetic towards the end. Red Flame Joe takes his second, well, I wouldn't say second podium of the season for sure. Race win, maybe on the cards. I don't know, we'll have to let the stewards decide. Gabza takes his first podium, as well as the Grandada. The Grandada coming from P11 on the grid to finish P3. Almost as good as Gabza last week. Kevin's losing out again, starting from pole position, but again not able to keep the consistency going. But this is it for tonight, ladies and gents. Join us again next week over in Shanghai for round 3, 7 PM GMT. Have a good evening.